Maybe it was never about the factory jobs. If there was any place in America where President Joe Biden's economic agenda ought to have won him votes, it would have been Lordstown, Ohio. A September CNN article noted that, thanks to Biden's Inflation Reduction Act, a gleaming new 2.8 million square foot manufacturing plant symbolizes something that has been fleeting in recent years: hope. Biden was bringing well-paid union jobs in the cutting-edge battery industry to a struggling region long written off as the Rust Belt. But if Biden was expecting the community to reward his efforts, he was sorely disappointed. In 2024, the county in which Lordstown is located shifted toward Trump by 6 percentage points compared with 2020, the second highest swing to Trump of any county in the state. Lordstown offers a test case of a political theory that has not only guided the Biden administration's economic policy, but also sought to explain the past several decades of American politics. The theory holds that Donald Trump's 2016 election represented a voter backlash against neoliberal economic policies that had impoverished people in the heartland, who in their desperation turned to a populist outsider promising to smash the system that had betrayed them. From this analysis, it naturally followed that if Democrats abandoned neoliberalism, they could win back the working class and become competitive in more of the country. A post-neoliberal party would curtail free trade, ratchet up enforcement of antitrust and other regulations, run a high-pressure economy with rising wages even at the risk of higher inflation, support labor unions categorically, and subsidize manufacturing employment to reindustrialize hollowed-out areas left behind by globalization, all of which Biden ended up doing. On the substance, Biden's economic agenda has registered some meaningful successes. The hot labor market raised wages. Union organizers at a handful of companies, such as Starbucks and Amazon, have made breakthroughs, and the administration's public investments in chip production and green energy have built up strategic domestic industries. As a political strategy, however, post-neoliberalism has clearly failed. Biden's popularity dropped to catastrophic levels in his first year and never recovered, leaving his successor, Vice President Kamala Harris, unable to escape his gravitational pull. If rejecting neoliberalism for 4 years did nothing to pull working-class voters away from Trump, perhaps Trumpism was never a revolt against neoliberalism in the first place. Some Democrats have responded to the disaster of 2024 by insisting that the way forward for the party is to keep doing what Biden did, but louder and more insistently. In fact, Trump's re-election ought to call into question the whole foundation upon which the strategy was constructed. People tend to believe that events with profound consequences must have profound sources. The shock of Trump's 2016 victory led many Democrats to search for an origin story that matched the scope of such a traumatic outcome. A belief took hold, especially on the party's economic left wing, that working-class voters had revolted against an economic order perpetuated by Democrats and Republicans alike. In this telling, every president since at least Ronald Reagan had governed in the service of corporations and wealthy elites, at the expense of ordinary Americans and left-behind places. After all, Trump had pulled off his surprise Rust Belt sweep while denouncing free trade deals and intermittently posing as an enemy of Wall Street. Defeating him would consequently require re-establishing a full-fledged populist program rather than the warmed-over variety of the Clinton and Obama years. This theory always contained fatal flaws. The Democrats had maintained a coalition divided between business and labor since Franklin D. Roosevelt, who also established the modern free trade order. The recent versions of the two parties did narrowly agree on a handful of policies, including the virtues of globalization, but starting with the Reagan era, they had grown more divided, not more united, on economics. Barack Obama had bailed out the auto industry, regulated Wall Street, and redistributed hundreds of billions of dollars from the rich to the poor. Even Bill Clinton had engaged in bitter showdowns over taxes and spending. The notion that Clinton and Newt Gingrich, or Obama and Paul Ryan, were partners with a shared ideology that could be usefully defined by a single term ignores almost everything that happened during these years. It is a measure of the incoherence of neoliberalism that the term can be, and has been, applied as an epithet to almost anything. Paul Krugman, Ta-Nehisi Coates, public employee unions, Beatles fandom.